let's see, what is it, October Ida Johnson Lecture Series Program presentation. Tonight our speaker is going to be Ike Kaufman about the history of Great Falls. So I'm going to allow one of our board members of the Untitled Chapter introduce Ike. I hope you enjoy the show. This will also be videoed, and we will be posting it on a YouTube. So if you know anybody in the Untitled Chapter, want to join the Untitled Chapter, or if you want to join, and we'd encourage you to join the Lewis and Clark Trail Heritage Foundation, of which the Untitled Chapter is a chapter of the National Lewis and Clark Trail Heritage Foundation. Sarah Cawley is going to be doing our videoing. She is the Executive Director of the Lewis and Clark Trail Heritage Foundation. I believe Sarah has some calendars up in the lobby that she's hawking. So if you feel so inclined, it's pictures taken along the trail. So if you're so inclined, please feel free.
Really welcome you all here today. It's beautiful to see all these people out tonight. We really appreciate that. We gratefully acknowledge Native peoples who have lived in this land for millennia. Their dedication to the land and their communities runs deep within the hearts of those present and future. This dedication encourages the Lewis and Clark Heritage Trail Foundation to continue developing among diverse communities an understanding of appreciation for the commitment of national Native peoples to this nation and the significance of the Lewis and Clark expedition. Okay. The Park Hotel, Avon Block, and the early pioneers. Discover the early history of Great Falls from one of the community's foremost authorities. Ike Kaufman will present stories of the old Great Falls at the Lewis and Clark Interpretive Center. Ike is the third generation of 4 generations to own and operate one of Great Falls' oldest family businesses, the 127-year-old Kaufman's Menswear. The business received the Montana State University Family Business of the Year award in 1996. Ike wasn't around for all these stories of Gold Great Falls, but his father and grandfather were. They passed on many of the stories Ike will tell, such as some of the great fires or a sinking building that necessitated the removal of the top 2 floors. These are booming times when Great Falls experienced rapid growth, becoming the largest city in Montana at one time. This is a part of the Ida Johnson lecture series and sponsored by the Untitled Chapter of the Lewis and Clark Heritage Trail. Thank you for coming, and I'm going to turn it over to Ike.
I have to tell you, and I don't think you'll have any trouble hearing me, but last month there was a really, really good program put on the massacre of the Marias, and the attendance was a little bit small, so Claire got after it, and it's really changed what's going on. My name, as I said, is Ike Kaufman. I sell shirts and underwear, and I've been in this town since I was born and since my dad was born, so it's, okay, as you can read from the credits here, I did a lot of this over a period of years. The way I did it is it started in little get-togethers, bars, and people's houses, and having a beer, and they said, well, you know, how are we going to keep all these stories? How are we going to keep them all? Well, I started writing them down. When I wrote them down, I went down to the History Museum, and I said, what am I going to do with them? Well, let's start pulling them up. Well, Megan at the History Museum today is my buddy. If I call her and tell her I want another story pulled up, she gets right after it, out of old Tribune articles. So it's fun to do, and it's going to be continued on, and it certainly doesn't need me. At any rate, let's go. Here we go. Charles Russell Paris Gibson said his eyes saw the great city. Next. This is the first entrance into Gibson Park, down close to First Avenue North. Next. This is the 1920 entrance into Gibson Park. You can see it's getting a little more fancy, a little more dolled up. And it's about 4th Avenue North. Next. Here's the lake, the original lake. And if you look over here, there is the railroad overpass. So you know that this lake was filled and then it was moved to the current lake as it is now. So it's just moved on along toward the north. Next. Don't mind me, I got a little cold, so I'm a little froggy. There are 4 Great Falls historic districts. The historic districts help you along the ability to get federal funds for certain things, the ability to designate buildings that they have to stay as they were, that sort of thing. The first one was the Fairgrounds District, about 1950. The second district was the Northside Residential District. The third was the Railroad District. And the 4th historic district is the downtown area, and this primarily is what I'm talking about today. This isn't exactly as you would think it is. I'm going to give you little stories about buildings or about people or whatever. Next. This is the 1886, the Park Hotel. What do you got? That's yours. 1886, the Park Hotel. It was built by Paris Gibson and Broadwater from Helena, the Broadwater mansion over there, and all the out of door. They were the main producers of this hotel. Broadwater set them up with waitresses. They named the Broadwater Bay is named after him. It was called at this time Long Pond, because it seemed like more of a pond than anything. Next. This is in 1890, these are the troops going to the Spanish-American War in the Philippines. They're from Lewistown. They brought them in by coach, and they put them down, and they marched through town. We'll have more pictures of them. And there's the old railroad square, the Park Quarry building, which we'll talk about. And the parade is in 1898. Next. And that's more of them marching. It looks like they're further up Central, but if you look carefully at the buildings, this building is it's a long gone building now, but between 3rd and 4th Street on Central Avenue. Next. And this is the first fire in the hotel of the hotel downtown, and wherever I'm going here, and it burned because when they were expanding the Park Hotel, the cover for the steam shovel blew off and lit the Park Hotel on fire, so it burned down, and the new portion was saved. Next. Now, if you look on the back, you get 2 different distinguishing factors here. You get different windows, different color brick, different windows, different color brick. This is the replacement building, and this was the new one as it was built in 1915 and 16 before they added the fancy decor and the Art Deco around the hotel. Next. This shows the total Art Deco. This at one time was the fanciest hotel in the state of Montana. And you can thank Paris Gibson and several people for it. What do we got here? We got, where is it? There we are. The first hotel operator was a guy by the name of Earhart. His mother lived there. She died there. She had a funeral there, and she was the first person to be buried in Highland Cemetery. So she must have liked it pretty well. Next. That's today, as the downtown, as it looks today, there's a few changes been made. There always is a barber shop or something coming or going. But you see that most of the Art Deco is still prevalent. It's a beautiful building. Okay, this is the original electric building, better known as the Block Quarry building. It was built in 1891, and there were 5 businesses in there, including the Conrad Bank. Now, William Conrad moved that bank from Fort Benton. He moved it up here. He sold part of it afterward. He had been there a while to the Boston and Montana Company. Then he sold the whole thing to the Boston and Montana Company. Then 3 years later, it went belly up. They went belly up. And he came back and rebought the Conrad Hotel. And I will show you other pictures of the new Conrad Hotel. It actually ended up being the old Montana Bank. 1, 2, 3, 4 stories. Next, there's the building today. 2 floors were taken off the top, and this is across from the Civic Center, which you all know where it is. See, then it was 2 stories. Now, when they took the 2 floors off, the construction people went on strike. Bert Talcott was running the project, the original Talcott Construction Company. He got mad at him. He and 2 of the bosses went up on their ladders, and they threw the bricks off themselves. And the contractor sent the laborers home. So it's kind of an interesting story there with Talcott. Next. Okay, there is the Block Quarry building. There is the Todd Block, which we'll get to in a moment. You see he's got the rounded front, and there is the Montana Bank building before it burned down, and there is the old First National Bank building. We'll get to all of them in a little bit. And Mark Twain said in 1895, one of the prettiest towns in the West, better than anything he's seen in Denver. Next. This is the Montana building. After those crowns are gone, Montana Bank, excuse me, and you'll see that it's a little different in front. There was the old entrance. There's the hub. The hub was in here when they first moved the bank. And they are at that point, they're moving them out to the hub location, barbershop in the basement. Some of you may have had your hair cut down there. Next. In 1982, this is the First National Bank building. 1892, this was the First National Bank building. It was the second location of the bank. It's on the location as it is today. And it was 3rd Street and Central Avenue right on the corner. Next. And this is when they were building the top 6 floors. 6 more floors were added to that bank building. Several of you probably officed in that building. And like I say, it was done in pieces. And it was extended up. There's old Joe's places right in there, and a lot of places that were familiar at that time. The additional elevators were added to the bank. And if you remember that bank, any of you that ever went there, the position of the elevators was weird. You had to kind of go upstairs to get in the elevator. And that's why, because it was an add-on. Lots of add-on buildings in those days. Next. This is the whole building as it stood. There's the original. There's the additional floors. And there is Kaufman's store. Next. Okay, this is the new bank built in 1969, and they're demolishing this portion. They demolished it by imploding down an elevator shaft with a D2 cat. The cat driver was a guy by the name of Jake the Fake. And if you remember him, he was around, he was a real character around town. He used to hang out in Sam's and didn't drink or booze, he just ate. And he was the D2 operator up there, and they broke one window. The First National Bank was so concerned about all of this that they actually got a filming company to take a film of the whole construction so that in case anything bad happened, the insurance company would have, this is it. This is the fact. Next. And there's just it's a postcard picture of the First National Bank, the Liberty, at that time Great Falls National Bank, and the Rainbow Hotel. Next. Okay, now we're going to back up to 1915. As I told you, there's no chronological order in this deal. So this is the Todd Block. We're interested in that because that fire was great. That's 2nd Street and Central Avenue. You can see the old depot, the old Great Northern Depot, and there's Strain Brothers when they had moved to the corner where the Davidson building is today. Next. This is a shot of the back of the Todd Block building. Tall building, good looking building. Next. This is what it looked like in 1928. My dad said it was the best fire Great Falls ever had. And he got up and walked down there in the morning, burned all night. And it burned itself out. Next. These are all pictures of the fire. This is one watching from 2nd Street South and 1st Avenue South. You can tell, look at them all. Everybody came down. Next. And here's a shot from the Strain building. There is the Conrad Bank building sign. And that went away when it became the Montana Bank. Look at all the cars, they all look the same. Every car was exactly identical, and there is the First National Bank. That was, that's before the Rainbow Theater was there, or the Liberty Theater was there. That's when it was the Paris. Okay. Next. It was the year that when the fire burned down. Well, we got to go back a little way. Jim Charters ran Charters Hardware right next door to the Stanton Bank Company. Was located in the building, and the Stanton Bank building was a bank that Charters wanted to borrow money from, and they wouldn't loan any money at a reasonable rate. He said, "I'm going to hell with you." So he left them. Well, when they had the fire, the entire safe fell through the floor, and he couldn't get in, and Stanton couldn't get into his safe. He went next door. He says, "You're the only safe cracker allowed in the state of Montana. You got to get me in." He said, "I'm not going to get you in. You wouldn't give me a loan. Hell with you." Well, 2 weeks later, he jacked that up so high that Stanton came to him and said, "Okay, I'll pay this rate. I got to get into my bank. I got to get into myself." My safe, so he let me in, and that's why there was a problem there. Next. Okay. At the same time, the Columbus Hospital that existed on 16th Street and 2nd Avenue North was being financed. They were trying to get money to build that. So what the Columbus did, they ran an ad to suppose this had been one of our local hospital buildings. That was a stick structure. Inside the Columbus Hospital, if you look, there is nothing other than brick, concrete, terrazzo, and marble. Nothing's going to burn in there except maybe a bed. And that was how they sold the process over the Stanton Bank building burning down. Next. Okay, now there were doctors in the Todd Block. Bunches of doctors. They got together and built what we know of today as the Medical Arts Pharmacy. Now, it's of course a different building today because it's residential. But those doctors all moved over here, and they have the finest library of books, of medical books in the state of Montana. Doctors from all over came to this library just because they had moved it with everything else, and they had financed it through through the fire. This is the old drugstore. And that was the entrance. It's still there. The elevator is still the same. There's a few changes been made down here, and of course there's a restaurant at the corner there. Next. Now we're backing up to 1915. You see, there's the old station. There's the rail cars. You might ask the question, how long did they last? They lasted till 1930. The electric cars in Great Falls. And look how busy it is, tons of people. It's hard to tell what that is. It might be Christmas, who knows? But there's, see, you know, it was before 1928. Next. Okay, back up one. Let me bring into, right there is the Alcazar Theater. Above the Alcazar Theater was a dance hall that eventually became the American Legion Dance Hall, and down below was, next, Walter's Bowling Alley. Well, in those days it was silent movies. How would you like to watch a silent movie with some guy down below? And that's where it was. And it was the only bowling alley in town. Next. Okay, this is a map. The map has always interested me, and so I'll try to get a little closer here and explain it a little better. This is, there we are. There we go. Okay, this is the north side route. The south side route was short. There was no west side route. There was always bad blood on the west side. We covered that in our railroad presentation. And at one time, that was a different name. Johnstown is what it was called. And the people in Great Falls never did like them. Then you can see, now, let's go to the next one. Whoops. That's interesting. Let's try one more. There we go. And then we'll back up to that. If you see here, in 5th Avenue North, it was double up until 13th Street. When you have been driving up 13th Street in the last few years, you notice that it's wider and it narrows down, not 13th Street, but at 5th Avenue to 13th Street, it narrows down to single lane here, or single lane on each side. That road went to the smelter, and that one went up this way, and that's a little more accurate picture of the, and I had the planning department do that for me. Back up one more time. One of these guys in here, and I don't know who else, is there it is Mr. John Earl. That's John Earl's dad, is this guy. And many of you know John. Next again, there we go. Okay, there, new depot and the freight house. I was post-1928. The depot was built in 1915, and the new depot. Here is the Gerald Cafe. Here is Hussman's. There's a bar in here that was Charlie Russell's second bar. There were 8 bars on this side of the 6 bars on this side of the street. And there's a guy in town that worked in all 6 of those, and he brags about it. You'll notice that and you all know him. Anybody that frequented Borey's in the old days know him. And this is Murphy McClay. Next. Okay. This is the south side of Central Avenue. Let me back off here a little bit. And this is Murphy McClay. This is the Tribune. This is Kaufman's. This is the Mint, right? The Mint is right next there. It's right between them. In fact, it's right there, and there we are right there. And we moved down here. That was our first location. That's 218 Central Avenue. There's the bank. There's a pharmacy here. Alcazar Theater. Now, the Alcazar Theater was eventually bought by the Fox chain, and they changed it to the Ritz, and I'm sure they got rid of the bowling alley. Okay, next. Strain Brothers, that's their first location. That's in 1887, and the location is on 2nd Street on the south side of Central. It's behind the Murphy McClay building. That's the first location. Next, that's the second location. It's where the Davidson parking lot is. And that's where it was, Strain Brothers. They at that time were getting prominent. They were eventually ended up with 6 Strain Brothers stores. They took on Sears. If you recall, you used to be able to get Sears products down in the old Strain Brothers plant. And anyway, that's their second location. The third location is next, and that's right here, and that's the corner where Davidson's building is today, and they ran their groceries down the north side. Now, the only thing is that isn't authentic, but that's where it went. You see that we're back to the old depot again. Next. Okay. That's the final thought of Strain Brothers. They started here and just had the corner store. Then they bought these 2 buildings out. That was the Northern Grocery. You might have seen the Northern Hotel sign. I'm just killing you guys back here, aren't I? Are you doing all right? Nobody said anything. Okay. And Bateman and Schweitzer. Bateman and Schweitzer was a liquor store. We'll get to that later on. But Strain Brothers bought them out. You can see that's the Strain Brothers sign right there, or awning. And then they bought them out, and they moved them to across the street from where we are, and Strain Brothers built there. So this is the beginning of the real Strain Brothers program. Next. This is the second portion of the construction, about 1916. You can see that all the wonderful display window setups they had, and you see the Strain Brothers sign, but you see the second level of windows, and that's as far as the building went. Now, you can really tell the difference today by looking at the construction. So, next. There we are. Okay, and it looks, we will get to another one yet. You can see where it was here, and they added these 3 floors to the Strain Brothers. Let's go to the next one. That's way better. There you go. They added these 3 floors. That floor there, the windows are different, the bricks are different, everything's different about it. The top 3 floors in 1929 were occupied by the Great Falls Clinic. That was their second location. They had a location in the south side, and they were just building doctors, and they went from there up to Central Avenue and this and that. Next. Okay, Central Avenue in 1921. There's military trucks. I thought at first it was World War II, but it's not. These cars would indicate a different time. And there's the hub. There was a ladies' hat shop in here. A couple other things were in there. And the hub eventually went all the way down here, as you probably know. What else? John's Jewelers, that was their related. Davis, that was Davis Jeweler. That was John's father. There's a good shot of the Strain building. Next. This is where we were on our next location, and then we moved across the street. This now is a bar and a brewery, and it's underneath the Northern Hotel. And there's the Northern Hotel as it was. They're fixing that all up. There's all kinds of oak in there. It's quite an interesting deal. And this is a his and her shop, and up above is a closed hotel for the time being. The owners of this, when it was the Bateman and Schweitzer building, Bateman was a kind of a crooked guy, but he used to sell liquor wholesale to people from all over the state of Montana. When they came to Great Falls, he would treat them with dinner, a room upstairs, and a girl. And the girls came from Helena, And it was just one of those things, in those days, it was a pretty commonplace business transaction. And they were all there in new buildings, financed and purchased by the Strain Brothers. Next. Okay. This is across the street from that building, from the bar and from the Bateman Schweitzer. This is Page's Table Supply. That goes back to George Page's dad. And this is a bouterie. And this bouterie, the guy that ran that bouterie was a legislator. And he got in a horrendous amount of trouble drinking and fighting. And so he lost that building. And this building eventually closed down. And that's when Cresses bought it. And they built that building in 1929. Cress did. Next. And there it is. You can tell. The car is kind of dated, about 19, I would say, I got 1930, but that's not right. It's got to be at least 52. So my guess is 1952. They had round mitered windows, and it was beautiful. We saved some of those windows. That's enough of that. Okay, now we get to the next corner where Dragonfly is, and this was the second location of the courthouse. It was moved from where the Great Falls National Bank followed on the lot on 3rd Street and 1st Avenue North, and they moved the courthouse here. They built this half first and this half second. You can tell the windows are different, the color of the bricks are different, construction is totally different. They got, everything was up here. The courthouse, the judges were there, everything was there that belonged to a courthouse. So all the treasurer and everybody else was upstairs in that building. Next. Okay, that's the old Great Falls National Bank location. And this was the courthouse before they tore it down to build the bank. Next. I'll give you a couple of shots of the Woolworths building when it was Woolworths. It was a big store. It was a good store for downtown. Next. And this is facing west. And they blocked off all those windows. Okay, next. All right, now we're going to the Paris. Pre-fire. 1919 was that fire. It hasn't happened yet. There's the Paris. This is where the Liberty Theater was and where Davidson's second office is now. And it burned down next like that in 1920. And it burned down, and when it did, they needed a place to at least temporarily go. And so they went to the back of a lot where the Great Falls National Bank is while they built their building, which still exists today. It's been through several changes, as everyone's aware. And that's the date's about 1919. Next. There's the fire department. They're all leaving the fire, and it don't look like they had a real good night out. Next. Okay, this is the Kingsbury Block fire. This is 1928, the same year as the Todd Block burned down. And the interesting thing about this is, when the Kingsbury Block burned down, so went several pieces of artwork from Charlie Russell. Well, not only was there artwork there, but in the basement of the Todd Block, there was an art store, and it lost art from Charlie Russell. So there at least were a dozen Charlie Russell paintings that burned up in the 1928 era. Next. Okay, Kingsbury Block fire, blah, blah, blah. By this time now, they're talking about Charlie Russell. That's where you get the stories that Charlie Russell was in there. Okay, next. And this replaced the Paris. And this is and look at the sign. That's an old sign. The city made them take it down. That's the Liberty Theater. Beautiful in this day. And the candy store, beans, flowers, barbershop, little bits of everything. Next. Okay, there's the Paris. And it was originally, if you can believe this, Fred Fligman originally wanted to make that a 10-story building. He got talked out of it. I don't know what would have been, it would have been 10. Now, right here, there was a hallway of windows. So you could go down in that old business, and the windows faced the front and the back, and then they were in the back. And my dad worked for them when he came back from World War I. And he said, there was so much window work to be done that I learned how to do the windows. It was really an interesting story. My mother worked there as well. Next. There they are. There's a good picture of it, just like that. Hallway just like that. Beautiful. Nothing like that today anywhere. Nobody would sacrifice that kind of space for windows. Next. Okay, this is Beckman's original workshop. 405 Central. They call it the workshop. And it was just a fur workshop. And that's that. Next. The second one was right here on the corner. It was an old building, and that's before the Paris then made them move. And that was the second location of Beckman's. And the third one next was not that. Well, the third one is where it would have been now as a store there and a small restaurant, which I think she's decided to close it. But this is right, that was Beckman's was right there. Okay, this is Goodman's. Whoops, let's back up. This is Goodman's cigar store, and it's kind of interesting because right behind it, the first building is the original post office. And then they built the post office that we have today. And I think they built that well after this building was closed out. Goodman's is interesting. They had a lot of raids because they had a lot of things in there. They had gambling machines, slot machines, you name it. They had a raid in 1953 and a raid in 1959. In 53, they just, it was just the raid and they got rid of everything. But in 59, Dick Blatterly was the county attorney, and Judge Nelson said, "You go down there and get all that stuff, I want to see it all." So he took it up to him and he said, "Now, what am I going to do with it? I don't care what you do with it, I just want to see you do it." So he had a whole truckload of illegal equipment, and the Attorney General said, "You get rid of that stuff, or there's going to be trouble." So they took it out to the dump, and they poured gas all over this stuff. And it was shortly after the war. There was a lot of plastics and a lot of glass, and they poured gas over it, lit it, and burned it, and all the windows were blowing out of the slot machines and everything. Quarters and nickels were flying through the air, and it's the last time I saw Dick Blatterly laugh. Anyway, that's that. Okay, now, this is the Montana State Building, where the public drug was, Fantasia's, what do we call it?
Rocky Mountain Building.
Got to be here someplace.
It's the Rocky Mountain Building.
Yeah, Rocky Mountain. It was Rocky Mountain Insurance Company. That was a Paris Gibson Insurance Company. Good shot. Thank you. And Fantasia's was a vaudeville. If you ever were there when it was originally, it had beautiful side windows or side booths and everything. It was just knock 'em dead. And when we went in there to see movies, we couldn't figure out what is this stuff. Well, that's what it was. We were on the circuit. The circuit started in Edmonton, went to Calgary, came to Great Falls, went to Salt Lake, San Francisco, on. And all the big towns had that. And it was a real knock 'em dead deal. So it was good. This is about 1914. This is before they added the next floor on. You didn't see that, the floor would have been right about there. Next. And there it is. And now the new floor is up there. There's the public drug. And that's the Rainbow Theater. Now, during the war, during World War II, everything that was available for a theater was made a theater so that military kids could have something to do other than go to the Ozark Club. And, That's why that was a theater, and there'll be more theaters come up. But you can tell by from the cars that we're getting into just about the year to 1950, 55 along in there. So next. Okay, now we're going to back up to 1915, and we're doing this because there's something in there about commission company. I think it was these bars. These were the bars in there. That's where Charlie Russell hung out in there. Across from the Mint. The Mint was on this side. He used to go over there. The bar across the street. Anyway, next. This is Davidson's Corner, Capital Commission Company. It was before Stream Brothers came there. Next. Okay. This is where the 600 Central Bank building is, and this is was built, and Tim Murphy owns it today. It's beautiful. Still great shape, but it's old. But it stood by itself. Next. Okay, that's the Great Falls Railroad District. It was started in 1993. Milwaukee. There's the Great Northern, and there's the Freight Depot. How many of you know where the Valeria Way was? Through the middle of town. It started about 9th and 2nd Avenue, 2nd Street South, and went diagonally out to the baseball park where the Milwaukee had their road. Well, they had a big fight with the city over it. Every month they fought over it because they were, then they wouldn't let it run anything that burned anything through there, so they had to go through electricity. They brought in electric trains here, and it was a real scramble, and then when the Milwaukee folded away, so did the Valeria Way tracks. It was right across Central and about 20th Street. Next. Okay, there's the town theater. Like I said, and there's the old Paris sign up there. And this is Crown Jewelry, and this is Carl's Shoes, which followed Kornfeld's Clothing. And that had to be during the war because that theater was there only about 5, 6, 7 years. Next. Vinegar Jones's. I have a buddy that lives in Phoenix and has one of Jones's old toolboxes. I don't know what it's worth, but it's got to be worth something. I told him if you ever brought it up, the History Museum gets it because it's a deal. And probably anybody in here that was a carpenter knew this guy. Next. Okay, the Sonic Temple, completed 1914, and daylight basement. Look at all the fancy decor that it had. Look at the windows. Now, this is 9th Street, and there was an underground passage through 9th Street. And I really don't know much about the underground map passages. Everybody asks you, and every time I ask somebody, they get mad at you. So I've learned not to do that. But across from here was Ray's Texaco on Central Avenue and 9th Street. Well, you had a ruptured gas tank, and gas got in the ground, and the water pattern of the gumbo ran that stuff into the gas-loaded water into the elevator shafts. They had to close this building for 2 weeks just to clean the gas out of the elevator shafts. And we couldn't drive down there. You couldn't drive through the box. My folks and I lived over here on 2nd Avenue North. Couldn't go that way. Next. Okay, now we're going to have a discussion about this because everybody thinks it's someplace else. This is the Grand Theater. And if you notice it, now we're looking at it, this is 3rd Street. And this is a conical service station, and 2nd Avenue is right here. You notice how narrow it is? It's a very narrow building. And it was built in 1894 or somewhere along in there, and then torn down in 39. No, it has to be later, 59, because I saw some wrestling matches in this crazy place. Anyway, that's the Grand Theater from the outside, and we have a picture of the inside. Let's see that. Next. There it is. Looks just like that. Beautiful, isn't it? Really something. Can't you imagine the Swedish angel in there throwing people on the ground? Next. And here is the courthouse, being built in 1901 to 1903 at $250,000, 25-foot copper dome, beautiful building. All that sandstone is from south of Gore Hill, south of the airport. Okay, that's a finished product. Beautiful. That was, for those of you who were around in those days, that's a cannon. They made us take it down for scrap steel. And probably good. It's probably a good thing today. They'd figure out something to shoot with it. Next. Okay, this is the jailhouse, the original jail, which obviously is not occupied anymore, but it's on 3rd Avenue North and 4th Street, and it was built, I think, in 1903 or 5, about 2 or 3 years after the completion of the courthouse. These were made of gum, and they were guys laying on the lower bunk, pushing that gum on the bunks above them as they slept in the jail. And Peggy Beltran was lucky enough to pull a C of a couple of those. She called me up, she says, Ike, you gotta come and see this. And so I went up there, and that's what that was. Next. Okay, there's the Carnegie Library. That actually, there were a lot of people who wanted that to be blended into the new library. It was kind of weird because it was in the center, there was a round thing, and then you could see there were 2 wings, and that's where you the books. I must be laying down taking a nap. There we go. 2nd Avenue North and 3rd Street was demolished in 1967. That's it. Next. And this is the North Side Residential District, established in 1991. Now, I tell you, there is a great, you gotta walk it. You can't get in the car and ride this, but anyway, I can get to that. If you want to walk a tour of that, she does it, and it's great. But it's walk. It's plenty of walking. Next.
Carol Bradley.
Carol Bradley. Bullseye. That's it. Yes. And anyway, this was the original township map. And the next one is another map of the town. And there's not much to see here, since that it exists. Next. That's it. Percy Wolf. That's his map of downtown and the town as he envisioned it, how it would be, and you can see why it's laid out, easy to find your way around Great Falls. It doesn't look like Missoula. For what that's worth. And I think that pretty well gets it for me. Questions? Got any questions?
Tell us about the rumors of the Park Hotel and its tunnel.
Take your mask down.
I said, tell us about the rumors of the Park Hotel and its tunnels and its access.
Well, I can tell you the only tunnels that I know of from the Park Hotel went from the back to the First National Bank building. That would have been up through about half the block on 5th Street. Now, you can access that tunnel by going to the Club Cigar, and he can take you into it. And the rest of those buildings, most of them have blocked it off. So, but it did exist. Now, there may be more, and I've lost more arguments over this. I asked someone who was knowledgeable in the Park Hotel about it, they got mad at me for life. So I guess I'm not gonna ask again. And it wasn't taken care of like Hamburg. Don't forget, we got so much moisture in the ground, and they don't have that much. So it made a big difference. Yes?
Big J, where was the Carolina Pines and the Ozark? Was that on First Avenue South?
No, the Ozark Club was on 3rd Street,
Okay.
between 1st and 2nd Avenue South, on the south side of the alley. Now, it's not in any of those old buildings, I can tell you that, because it basically was for horses. And my good friend Jack Evans, who lives in Portland today, can show you a picture where it was nothing more than a stable. And then it was built on top of that, I'm sure. But I don't think it wasn't built till 30s probably. That's a guess, but it's not, you don't find that in any of the history in the newspapers.
What about the Carolina Pines?
Carolina Pine? What's that?
Fried chicken, wonderful chicken, restaurant, dining area, 2nd floor.
Now?
No. In the
East of the Ozark,
east, yeah,
Oh, the Ozark Club?
east of the Ozark.
across the street.
The second.
I don't know, that was a long way for me to go, I went where the booze was. There's the Valerian Way, it goes right through the middle of town. That I spoke of, with the electric way, the electric railroad went. Okay, let's keep going. Okay. This guy's name was L.H. Hamilton. He was the biggest sheep rancher in the state of Montana, and he built the Silver State Building. He sold all his land, sold all his animals, he got out of business, and he built this building, and then, now, take a look, it's 1910. He rode the train back east and drove 3 cars back from east to Montana. There were no bridges, you know, I mean, he was in water half the time. And he brought automobiles, he brought Buicks, and he brought 3 brands of cars back. Maybe I got that. Yeah, I do. Automobile Hudsons and Buicks. And he brought them through and he brought them out here. I just think that's amazing because that building is in great shape. There's lawyers been in there, anybody been in that building, it's super shape. It's got a car elevator in the back and little bits of everything. That's your plus. I'm done.
Ike, could
Yeah.
you tell about how they used to deliver the supplies to the buildings through the sidewalks, into the basements, into the stores?
Oh, well, that was like coal or something? Yeah,
On
they
the
just dropped
sidewalks.
down, there was elevators.
Yeah, but they used to have the glass on the sidewalks in front of the stores, and then they'd open those at night, and the trucks would come and put the stuff on the elevators, and they'd put
Boy, I don't know about that.
Oh,
You're
I'm
probably
not
right.
that older than you. There used to be all those,
You talked to me about that, I'll get that, I'll find that out.
Josie's, I used to work there, and they
I
used
gotta do a little research on
they'd
that.
open the sidewalk up in a
Those were
door
all
or
coal.
thing, and they put the stuff down in there at night.
Oh, well, then, yeah, I guess Woolworths had one of those, but it came from the
There
back.
were quite a few of them, but they were on the front, in the front of the
Yeah, this was Woolworths, came from the back, had a metal slide on it, you put a box on it and go, psst.
Yeah, and then they had the glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ike, where was the Stanford garage? That was L.H. Hamilton built?
Yes?
That big garage where I guess the mechanics were kind of from everywhere.
That is the garage.
Was that it?
The back end, yes.
Oh, I see.
That's where you drive in, the front was all showroom. If you went in there when it was American furniture, they didn't go all the way to the alley. They loaded their trucks back there. And that's what no, it was in the back. Yeah, I'm interested in that glass business. I've never heard that before. Anyway, questions? I quit. Thank you very much.